Hello, let's have a look at 958. Copy and complete the following table. And then I guess we're just answering parts A and B. So we've got this table here, and our first step is to find the rule. Okay, that's not too bad. So our rule is going to be in y equals mx plus b form, also known as slope-intercept form. So I know when I'm dealing with a table, I need to figure out what is my m and what is my b. So we know b is, when we have an input of 0, that's what y is, but we don't have a 0 in our table yet. And we also don't know the slope yet. So I really think it's going to be easier to answer question B first and then determine our rule. So let's have a look at B to start off with. So it looks like in part B, we're just finding that slope or the difference from, how much is it growing by in our table, each number. So from number to number. Well, if I go from 5 to 4, that's that would tell me what our growth is if we're going from 3 to 4. But oh my goodness, 4 does not have an output. So how are we going to find the rule? Well, it's not as bad as you think, so don't shut down. It's going to be okay. Let's just skip on over to this 3 here. So we have 5, we're given a 5 and a 3. So we know that's a difference of 2. Now let's look at their outputs. We have negative 17 and negative 11. So my difference to get from, now if we're going from 3 to 5, to get from negative 11 to negative 17, I'm subtracting 6. So that is a change in negative 6. Now, don't worry, because I realize that we're going from 5 to 3 here. And we need to know what it is from 5 to 4, or 4 to 3. What is it growing by each time? Not each 2 times, each 1 time. So for every 1 change in x, what's our change in y? So that's probably what you're wondering right now, and it's nothing to worry about. So what we can do is, we know the difference between 5 and 3 is 2. So we're just going to take this growth and divide it by 2. So if we take negative 6 and divide by 2, and you do that in your calculator or in your head, but do it in your calculator just to be sure, then you should get negative 3. So again, we divide by 2, and that gives us a growth of negative 3. So we'll say we use m to represent the slope, so m equals negative 3 for part B. All right, so negative 3 is our growth. Now, if we are writing the rule, that means, hang on just a second. Sorry, I got my stylus stuck in my hair. Okay. So we can plug that into our equation. So our slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 3x plus, well, we've got to figure out what our figure 0 is. So let's fill in this table and see if we can get anywhere. So if I'm going from 3 to 4, so I don't want to cover up that 4 there, 3 to 4, and I know I'm growing by a negative 3. That means my output for 4 is going to be negative 14. Oh, I don't like that 14. Negative 14, that's a little bit better. So, and again, that's, I'm doing negative 11 plus a negative 3. So that's where I'm getting my negative 14. Now we need to figure out what's our output, or I'm sorry, what is our input going to be for a negative 5? And what's our input going to be for a negative 2? Well, if I'm working backwards, and let's say my output is a negative 2, and I know, or I'm sorry, not a negative 2, my output is a 4, and I know I'm growing by negative 3 each time. So let's say I'm going to do a little bit of a table extension here. Let's say we have negative 1 and 0. So a 4 plus a negative 3 is going to give me 1. So that would be my input-output pair for negative 1. I guess you could say that would be my output for my input of negative 1. So let's go from negative 1 to our next number, which would be 0. So let's take our output here, and we're going to add that negative 3. So 1 plus a negative 3 is going to give me negative 2. Oh, so that means 0 must be my input there. And then if we add, I'm going to squeeze this in here. Let's say we have a positive 1. We're going to subtract 3 or add a negative 3 to that negative 2. And I should get negative 5. Ooh, which is on my table. So that means the input here is going to be a positive 1. All right, so we completed our table. Didn't necessarily ask us to complete the table, but I think that's the easiest way, that we can find 0. Now remember, our output of 0 is negative 2, and that's our y-intercept. So we are going to have, for our rule, y equals negative 3x plus a negative 2. Now, that works. Or you could say y equals negative 3x minus 2. That also works. I prefer this way, but if you prefer the first one, go with that, whichever works best for you. All right, that's all for 958.